The new Buzzwole is here, and it is powerful, but we've got some choices to make. Do we pair it with Pheromosa? Do we pair it with Kartana? Maybe both. We've seen all three of these options play out in the most recent 900-person tournament in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place. Cyrus pairs so well with Pheromosa. We saw the 2nd place winner pair 2 Cyrus with only 2 Pheromosa. But what about cards still like Sabrina, or even the new Repel if we want to go more Kartana heavy? I've been trying out every single one of these cards. I want to show you different matches, showing the strengths and weaknesses, and talk through this deck in case you're interested. And with that in mind, if you're interested in this deck, the most important thing I want to make sure that you know in case you haven't seen this is, I don't know, what should we call this, the swap trick? So watch what happens here. Big Beat is like one of the most important moves you're going to use in this deck with the Buzzwole. Here we are, we're using a Big Beat. We've got Buzzwole EX up front. We've just fresh got 3 energy on it. It's coming in, it's swinging, doesn't get the kill. This is just a match versus AI because I want to just demonstrate a lot of these different scenarios you're going to end up in real matches, and I was able to demonstrate all of the different situations perfectly to show you. All right, so we've come in with our Buzzwole, we've swung with our Big Beat, 120 damage. Now, if you look, we can't use it again. We know this. It says you can't use it again on the following turn. But here we go. We use the Celesteela to bring in the Pheromosa. Then we can still retreat once with the Pheromosa. We ditch 1 energy, and then boom, we get to use Big Beat again. What the heck is that? To me, this doesn't make any sense at all that you should actually be able to do this. To me, in fact, to be honest, I never would have figured this out. I think there was some YouTube video that popped up that was like the Buzzwole swap trick or something like that, and I learned this because I would have never guessed that you could do this. I mean, the card literally says on it, during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. So how come when you retreat it, it can attack? That doesn't make any sense to me, but you can. So that was one way that we can do this. Let's call it the swap trick. You can Celesteela out, bring in the Pheromosa, waste 1 energy. Here's another thing you can do, okay? We're going to retreat with the Buzzwole, so that makes us lose our 2 energy off of our Buzzwole. We retreat for 2, we use the Celesteela to then bring it back in, and then we use Lucamine to get the 2 energy that we had to ditch off of the retreat back onto the Buzzwole, and it can attack again. Look at the Buzzwole. If you look at it, you'll see there's that red icon on it, that little red, I don't know, crossbar, is that what that's called? It's like a no smoking sign. That's always going to be on there after you use Big Beat, telling you can't use it again. But if you watch, as soon as you move the Buzzwole to the bench, that red bar icon, it just immediately disappears, and boom, you can use the Big Beat again. So we've gone over 2 different ways we can do this. The first is a situation where we have 3 Pokemon, including a Pheromosa, and we just burn 1 energy, bring the Pheromosa in, retreat the Pheromosa. Then we've got retreating the Buzzwole, and then using a Lucamine to get back 2 more energies back onto the Buzzwole. Here, we're retreating, but we had 4 energy to start with. Retreat it, use the Celesteela to bring it back in, and then just add the 1 missing energy manually. Once again, we can use Big Beat. This is something, y'all, that I assure you is going to come up in your matches. All right, let's look at another case that can happen. All the cases I've shown you so far, you had to burn something. You had to burn some energy. You had to burn a card like a Lucamine. Here, we've got double Celesteela. All right, we're coming in, bringing in, again, fresh Buzzwole. Just put the 3 energy on it. It's going to get the Big Beat hit. And then what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to use double Celesteela. When you have this setup, you don't have to burn anything. You don't have to use any resources. All right, y'all, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. If you appreciate me putting this work in, talking through every single situation and getting all this footage for y'all to make sure and cover all the options, we've still got a lot to cover in this video. Do please consider subscribing. It really helps me a lot as a new channel. Consider commenting and liking, all that jazz. All right, so let's get back to it. So we hit Big Beat. Here we are. We've got 2 Celesteela. We bring in whatever, it doesn't matter, up front. It removes the Big Beat problem off of it. We use the other Celesteela, so we've used the power twice. Bring it back in, and boom, we get to use Big Beat again on the 2nd turn. We don't have to use any resources up at all. So everybody, when you're playing your matches with this deck, please keep this in mind, because it really is, I promise you, this is going to be super important to remember all these different lines. I've shown you multiple lines where you only need 1 Celesteela. Here's a line where you have 2 Celesteela, you don't have to burn any resources. Depending on what's happening in the match, in those first lines that I showed you, each one had different requirements. Only burning 1 energy, but you already had 3 on the Buzzwole. One of them only required 1 Buzzwole, 1 Celesteela. And so when you're playing through your matches, consider this, especially if you're starting out with a Buzzwole up front, you didn't have any other options. You had to start with it up front. You can do the 30, 120, switch back in and 120 again. So remember, there's a ton of different lines you can take to get this to pull this off. And so when you're considering all the different possibilities of how your match is going to play out, remember that there's all these different lines to consider to get that second Big Beat off. I promise you this is going to come up. And I've even got this crazy example here. I don't think this is going to come up a lot, but it could. Here we go. We're bringing in Buzzwole, fresh Buzzwole, 3 energy, attacking. Again, just another AI match, but I just wanted to show you just some extra footage here. My opponent then Cyruses me. So I use the big beat. I get Cyrused. It pushes the Buzzwole back. And now, as soon as the Buzzwole comes back in, once again, as soon as it touches that bench, that red crossbar thing comes off, it comes back in, it's ready to go ahead and big beat again. I don't know that this is going to come up as often as much, but again, when you're considering all the lines of what can happen in the match, keep this in mind that you can still come back in and big beat again, even if they Sabrina or Cyrus you. And that's going to be a situation again where you don't necessarily have to spend any resources like I'm showing here. I didn't have to spend any resources. It just came back in because the Pokemon died after the Cyrus. All right, let's jump into some actual Ultra Ball early season rank match climb into Master Ball matches here. As I mentioned, one of my main questions with the deck was which one, Kartana or Pheromosa, or maybe a split? Which one's better? What are the pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses? Well, let me show you a perfect match to demonstrate this. All right, we are up here against the typical standard Silvally Rampardos deck, and they're going to open with, they basically always get a perfect start. Am I wrong about that? Like basically every game is a perfect start for this deck. So they're going to start with a type null, and I have both Kartana and Pheromosa. Which one's better here? Well, one of my thoughts with Kartana in this deck is I wanted to try basically Kartana with Repel and or Sabrina, so I tried one of each. Our opponent was going first, played the Skull Fossil. We're going second, Repel, and look at that, we win. Boom. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that, does it, for climbing the rank ladder? I mean, come on, y'all, right? It's about as good as it gets. Let's look at another one. Let's look at another Silvally Rampardos deck matchup here. And once again, which one's better, the Kartana or the Pheromosa? Once again, we have pretty much more or less perfect opener. We're assuming we're going to be able to draw into the Buzzwole here. And again, I saw that my opponent had the fighting type energy, so I decided to lead off with Kartana. Let's talk about some strengths and weaknesses of Kartana versus Pheromosa. By the way, I love the fact that in this deck, if you do play both or some kind of split, a lot of the top tournament decks were playing some sort of split. They were usually always going 2-1. Honestly, right now, I'm probably going to stick with a split. I'm probably, after I've been done testing with this version where I just wanted to test everything out, I'm thinking 2 Pheromosa and 1 Kartana. And originally, to be honest, I was thinking this matchup is the matchup where I like Kartana plus something like Sabrina Repel. Because of the fact you can do what I just showed you in the last matchup where they play that fossil, you repel it in or Sabrina it in, and boom, they're cut off from the Rampardos, and then you just wait and win with a Buzzwole afterwards. But the fact of the matter is they're also going to have a lot of starts like these where they just happen to get the 2 type nulls. Now, even so, I was still thinking, again, Kartana feels really strong here. Look at this. It's 40 damage and 40 damage. Now, if they get the Silvally early, it's basically not really going to matter, I think, too much which one, Pheromosa or Kartana, because they're just going to kill it instantly on that first swing with the Silvally. But also, the more I played this match, the more I was thinking, well, if Pheromosa gets that 1 early hit also on that Skull Fossil, then once it gets its 150 HP, it's going to be down to 130. Buzzwole actually can't one-shot it if it's at the full 150 HP, unless it already kills something off. But if you Pheromosa it for 20, then they evolve, then Cyrus it in, and then Buzzwole and finish it off, that also seems pretty strong. So, to be honest with y'all, I was really hoping to have like a really firm, definite answer in this video, which one seems better to me. But yeah, to be honest, I'm really still kind of on the fence about it. What do y'all think? I'm kind of now thinking probably Pheromosa. Since even though with the Kartana you can have the crazy stuff I've just showed and that I've been talking about, the Pheromosa with the Cyrus is so strong also. And like I just said, you could Cyrus out a Rampardos, kill it with the Buzzwole. The other thing is I've still been going up against a lot of Dark Tina, and Dark Tina, y'all, I don't know if you know this, in the 900 person tournament, Dark Tina won. There, you can always just Pheromosa and Cyrus out whatever they've got there and finish off that one that they're building up energies on the bench. So anyways, coming back to this match, we started with that Kartana. It did exactly what I was hoping for. It was able to get that early 40-40 kill on an 80 HP type null, but they were able to just bring in the Silvally, which just finished both of my Pokemon off. And then after that, we're in this situation. They've got the Cranidos, and they're going to ultimately just be able to Sabrina us after getting the 2 kills, evolve it, get the Rampardos, and, well, we're dead. And I would have to say, this match is going to kind of pretty much be a win for the Pheromosa, to be honest. If we could have had that early Pheromosa pinged for 20 and then Cyrused it in, it would have been better. With the Kartana, you do have to kind of have everything play out perfectly. I mean, I know I just showed you like that just wonderful match where you just get a free win in ranked, but it's not going to happen that often at this point, I feel like. Especially when they can often just have that double type null opener to protect the Skull Fossil anyways, like I just showed in this match, they had double type null opener. All right, y'all, let's look at one more match against this deck. I think this is going to be kind of the new Boogeyman deck. So here, once again, it's exactly what I was just saying. They set up with Titanal, Skull Fossil. We had the Kartana up front. Now we've got the Pheromosa. So we've got options here. Which one's better? You could just stop the video now and just ask yourself, this is 3 matches in a row. Which one's better versus this typical deck setup that you're going to play against? Or should we choose, or should we just run both? Now, here we are. We've got the Kartana early. It's able to pressure that front type null. Because we're going second, this is what I like about the Kartana. You know, I'm a Farfetch'd lover. Everybody should know it who's been following this channel. If you've been following it all, you know I love Farfetch'd. I still think it's just so strong, and this is just a grass Farfetch'd. And here, I actually went for, I don't know, can I call this a little bit of a cheeky play here? I led off with the Kartana. I could have finished the type null up front, but because my opponent put that energy back on the top back left, we also get red carded here, which is pretty unfortunate. We had 6 cards in our hand. I think I probably pretty much made a mistake there. I should have went ahead and played some of those leaf capes, even though I didn't necessarily have to, because I knew it wasn't going to make any difference in this match, but I should have just played against the red cards, so it was kind of stupid. I was hoping to draw a Buzzwole and banking on that, but I don't know. It was probably a mistake. It's debatable, I guess. Anyway, here I knew that since they Silvalleyed in the back, they were playing that energy in the back, I knew that was what was going to happen. I actually brought that Pheromosa. I burned one of my energies to bring that Pheromosa in. I'm assuming, hoping, well, this match is going to ultimately come down to the Buzzwole anyway. Like, that's how this match is going to end. I'm going to have a Buzzwole Lucamine to end this match out. So I'm just going to go ahead and burn that energy, put that Pheromosa in, and yeah, I don't know. I felt like it was a pretty good play because that way I can go ahead and start pinging that Skull Fossil because I knew I had the extra turn because they couldn't retreat that type null because it had the 2 retreat cost. And like, even if they could retreat it, you know, they were going to have to pay something. It just wasn't going to happen, I assumed. All right, and check out this. Check out the split play. Look at this. We got 1 Kartana hit. We were able to bring the Pheromosa in, and look how that works out with the Rampardos. 20 damage, plus it then taking 50 more damage. That's 70, and we had 2 hits. Well, so there was another 20. So look at that. Our Kartana was able to finish it off perfectly, and that's how we won that match. So that was a match where the split Kartana Pheromosa giving us those different options just absolutely played out beautifully. All right, let's wrap up this video with another maybe 1 or 2 matches showcasing, you know, really good showcases of some of the other different things with this deck. So in this first match, we see that they're playing Lightning Energy. I'm assuming it's going to be Oricorio, Zeraora, and Silvalley. That's pretty much the deck that's running around right now as Lightning. I'm kind of surprised about this deck, to be honest. I don't feel like it's going to be that great. We have our perfect setup to demonstrate this deck. I've got all my pieces. 1 Kartana, 1 Pheromosa, Celesteela, and we got a Buzzwole back in the back. And I really like putting the Celesteela up front just by default in this type of a scenario. Like, no matter what they do, I don't know, maybe they retreat back their Oricorio and attack with a type null. I love using the Celesteela also as just a wall to soak up damage. Let's say you're playing against Darktina. You can use it to kind of soak up stray hits, those little 20 damage pings. And here I had to make a decision, Kartana or Pheromosa. Once again, maybe you pause the video and think about it. Which one do you think is better here? I do think you're going to see a fair amount of this deck, even though I'm not sure that this deck we're playing against is actually good, this Lightning deck. I just don't see how this Lightning deck can be good in a world of Silvalley Rampardos decks running around everywhere. I just don't see it for this deck. But fortunately, I feel like our matchup is pretty much fine against this deck also, to be honest. So they're building a Silvalley up on the bench. I decided to go ahead and go lead off with the Pheromosa. Once again, I thought it was better. And overall, through all of these matches, I pretty much felt like Pheromosa was generally a little bit better. And the Pheromosa plus the Cyrus, to me, genuinely just feels really strong. So I've already said it a few times, but I think my final landing spot on this deck is going to be what I think probably most lists are playing, which is the 2 Pheromosa. It was also the 2nd place list from the huge tournament played 2 Pheromosa. And then you also see a lot of 2 Pheromosa plus 1 Kartana. Me going forward, I'm going to go ahead and I'm planning on running 2 Pheromosa and 1 Kartana and 2 Cyrus is my plan. And then maybe 1 Sabrina or 1 Repel. All right, so our opponent was able to get in with the Silvalley, which enabled them to kill off the Pheromosa. They didn't like that. We were able to bring Celesteela in to soak up a little damage as well. And then now, here we are, we're set up with the Buzzwole, and well, basically pretty much can't lose this match. Now, I have to admit, I actually recorded this match before I knew about the Buzzwole trick, so I was actually kind of a little bit handicapped. I didn't know I could just go ahead and retreat, bring it back in, and use the Silvalley here. I actually didn't know that. And then at that point, my opponent has absolutely no chance in this match because they're going to lose the 2 energy, and there's basically just absolutely nothing they can do if I would have known about that. But amazingly, amazingly, this deck is so strong that even just, using a Leaf Cape and using the Erica, we were still able to buy enough time with putting the Celesteela, using the Celesteela to put something out up front. I ended up postponing till the next turn. But yeah, so don't make my mistake. I've shown you about the swap trick. I could have just swap, and dealt 120 again there. And so if you're not careful, you might run into a similar situation and miss it. Like I missed it there. Of course, I missed it because I just didn't know it existed. But yeah, you still could miss it because there are different interesting lines depending on the setup, like I kept talking about before at the start. And so we'll go ahead and fast forward through this match and skip to another one. But amazingly, I mean, this is just how strong this deck is. Just using Erica's and the Cape, not even knowing about the Big Beat swap trick, we were still able to win this match. My opponent had no options here. We go on to win this. All right, so instead of wasting y'all's time finishing that match out, let's just go ahead and skip straight forward to another one. We're going up against the Lightning deck again. Have y'all been seeing this Lightning deck running around all over the place? I think people are going to figure out that it's probably not good, but I actually do want to play this Lightning deck, to be honest, because I mean, I love Oricorio. It seems like it should be kind of good, but I don't know. In the current meta, I can't really see it, to be honest, but I'm probably going to have to give it a run for myself, so don't be surprised to see me play this Lightning deck and throw up a video on the channel. So anyway, going into this next match, we are leading off with the Kartana. That was the only option we had. We drew into a Celesteela, so still not really great. All right. Once again, we're playing, the name of the game is always, is Kartana better or is Pheromosa better? And most of the time, it kind of goes either way. Like if we had the Pheromosa, we've got the Cyrus, like it's always a pretty strong combo. They were able to heal up the Oricorio. We are able to put really good early pressure, and this deck is really consistent. Like you pretty much, I've almost never run into consistency problems with this Buzzwole deck also, which is really nice. So once again in this match, as always, 1 or 2 turns later, and boom, we've drawn into everything that we need. We have our perfect Kartana, Pheromosa, Celesteela, Buzzwole setup. Amazing. All right, I'm pretty sure I've said it before. Let me say it again. I really do like how the fact that you play the 2 Celesteelas, so many times I get this option of Pheromosa or Kartana because I end up with this setup a lot where I get to choose. So that's another point for me for having both, is with the Celesteela, you can kind of react to the situation. And if you did happen to run a Sabrina or a Repel, you could run the split. That's probably what I'm going to end up doing, like I said. And if you're up against all these Rampardoses, you might be able to snipe out that 40 HP fossil on the back a decent amount of the time. All right, so our opponent does get the early Silvally hitting in for 100, instantly takes out our Kartana, and okay, it's a little bit scary. I love the Celesteela so much in this deck. I mentioned it before. It's just a meat shield. It's ready to soak up the damage. And look what we have here once again. This is why I just don't know how anybody can play this Lightning deck. We've got the Big Beat, and as I just mentioned in the last match, I recorded this again before I knew that you could do the swap out. It's so crazy how much power the swap out, swap in trick to keep using Big B. It's crazy how much power that gives this deck. When I first saw Buzzwole, y'all, I just really didn't think it seemed that strong. But man, once you can just keep using Big Beat over and over again, oh my God, I think it's just so strong now. And it makes it so much better when you're going to end up in those rare occasions where you have no choice but to lead off with the Buzzwole. Our opponent can't do anything because I think they actually suspected that we knew that we could do the swap out trick. So once I did the swap out, even though that was right before I figured it out, they still just conceded. If we have the Big B swap trick, we win that game easily. All right, y'all, with that is a wrap. I hope you feel like I've given you a good high-level view of this deck and a lot of thoughts on a lot of the different choices you can make with it. I'm going to just throw this up to end the video. This is the second place in the most recent 900-person tournament. So in theory, this is the current best list on record. But as I mentioned before, the 3rd place and 4th place both were also playing this deck. I'll also try to leave in the description down below a link to the results of that tournament if you want to look through some of those decks if you haven't looked at them already. Also, you can just click them and look at the lists. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment and all that stuff. The subscriptions have been really helping me a lot, everybody, so thank you also to those who have already subscribed. And as I mentioned, I think going forward this deck, I'm going to probably start with a list kind of like this. I'm probably going to keep the 2 Pheromosa. I really like the 2 Pheromosa, 2 Cyrus. I also just find it fun. I think I'm going to keep going with that, and then probably put the 1 Kartana. I'll probably test, and I may or may not have 1 Kartana in like a lot of other lists. May or may not have 1 Sabrina or Repel in, depending on the meta and depending how it feels. And also may have to try out the hand destruction, the Mars, and the red card also like this list has as well. Let me know what y'all think, especially if you've been playing this deck. What do y'all think about the strengths and weaknesses, and what do you think about the right list? All right, let me know if you think this video can be improved or the format at all, and I will see you next time.